Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. I'm Dianne Barlow, and I'm looking forward to spending this time with you to talk about creating lasting wealth for you and your family, why it's important, and how we can do this. This session will also be recorded, so if you need to leave early, we will send you a recording. Right, let's get into it. I'll be talking about understanding your goals, your time frame, crafting a plan, and how we can access your investments once you have retired and you haven't got income coming in. Also, estate planning essentials, and hopefully we've got some time for some questions. This presentation is information purposes only. I cannot give you personalised advice. I'd love to, but everyone is different and has different goals, different assets, liabilities, etc. So I really encourage you to seek personalised financial advice from someone qualified that you trust, or come and see me or one of our other coaches. I have a special offer for you at the end if you would like to come and see us. This is me. I'm a strategic coach at Enable Me. I have been a strategic coach for over 10 years now. In my prior life, I was a chartered accountant. And I think most important, well, one of the interesting things is that I was an Enable Me client 15 years ago. My husband and I have been working to the Enable Me principles during that time, and it has been good for us and pretty life-changing. As a strategic coach, I love helping motivated people be smarter with their personal finances so they can have the best possible life now and into the future. A lot of people aren't sure if they're on track. We all want a comfortable retirement, but what does that look like? I think it's important to bring to life what you're aiming for. Where you want to live, is your house you're in now, is that going to be your forever house? Do you want to shift and live by friends, family, medical care? Do you want overseas holidays, or are you happy being close to home? How much your hobbies cost? These things all impact on how much you will need, and we're all different. The first step is to understand how you're tracking now and how much you're likely to have by retirement, and then understand if that will be enough. Surveys have shown that a lot of people 70% feel that they'll have to work past retirement age. I've got nothing against that, but we want it to be an option, not a necessity if possible. And 50% of Kiwis do say that they don't feel that they're prepared for retirement. So what can we do about this? Regardless of your number, having some wealth creates options for where you live, how you want to live, hobbies, etc., meeting friends at cafes or restaurants, options for helping your children financially, options around the level of care you receive. I have some clients in retirement age still subsidising their elderly parents in a retirement home. They certainly didn't imagine that they would be worrying about their parents when, they're in their 70s. If you create the options, you may be able to create the options to retire early or scale back hours. It's very appealing. Some people want to leave a legacy. And don't forget, we may have all these great plans, but we might get a curveball. We might have to finish work early because we're sick, or we lose a job, or we need to care for a loved one. So if we've got some wealth, that creates some margins, and we're still likely to be okay in retirement, even though our working life has been unexpectedly cut short. These are some of the options that people have to fund their retirement. Downsizing your home. Got to be a little bit careful on this one, because as we move into retirement, most of us want a maintenance-free home, and we often don't get as much for our old home. We don't release enough equity to cover more than about three, perhaps 5 years of retirement. Some people know they're getting an inheritance and can work that in. Reverse mortgages, an option, but be careful with those, with caution. Of course, you can spend less in retirement, not very palatable. New Zealand superannuation may be there. We don't know what age. I mean, the age is bound to increase over time. And KiwiSaver on its own is unlikely to be enough. So we do need a bit of a plan in place. So first of all, how much do you need? Just to be clear, everyone is different. What you need and what I need is different, and we all need a bespoke plan. This webinar is just talking to general principles at the moment. So how much does a comfortable lifestyle cost? Times that by 25 years. That's assuming that you will stop work at 65 and live till 90, remembering we are all living longer. If you're older than 45, I do tend to factor in New Zealand superannuation. Younger than that, probably don't. You can't achieve financial success without having solid money habits, or a solid foundation. And that includes good money habits, having goals. Your goals are your map. If we don't know what we're aiming for, we're unlikely to hit it. So set those targets, big or small, and let your money work towards where you actually want them to go. Your goals might be getting on the property ladder, it could be retiring debt, it could be investing, but have a goal. When you don't keep track of your money, it's easy to lose control. And by having a spending plan, it does avoid impulse buys. I'm a shopper, I'm terrible at this stuff, I need some spending limits. It makes you way more mindful and keeps on track. Of course, we want to pay off debt. Pay off your mortgage as quickly as possible. That will save you interest, and that can be put towards investments. Insurance is really, really important to protect your ability to earn and protect your assets. And of course, KiwiSaver has to work really hard for you. Be in the right fund appropriate to your risk profile. We'll help with all this. These are some of the things we hear from clients. People kind of say, oh, it's not right, the timing's not good. We know the cost of living has been tough on many, many Kiwis, but many of us can't afford to wait. We can't wait till everything's perfect. Is it ever going to be perfect? And when we think about interest rates of a few years ago, they were about 2.5%. Were people smashing down their mortgages? Not necessarily. Conditions will never be perfect, and by waiting, you're introducing more pressure on yourself. It is never too late to start preparing, but the later you start, the less opportunities and options you will have. You don't need a lot to get started, but you do need the right structure and systems in place to get moving. And once you start making progress, it's motivating and it encourages you to keep on going. I want to explain this graph. So these people here, they were on track to pay their mortgage off in 65 years. And they would then have some KiwiSaver to cover their lifestyle for the next 4 years. They worked really hard and got their mortgage paid off 10 years earlier. So instead of mortgage payments going to the bank, they were able to invest those and accumulate some investments which would cover their lifestyle till 80. Not good enough in our book. We like our clients to be able to cover their lifestyle to 90. So this is where on retirement, you need to get your wealth strategy in place so that you can manage your wealth and extend the time as long as possible. You don't need to liquidate everything the day you stop work. You want to keep some growth assets going and, you know, understand how much you're dipping into your savings or investments. The larger the retirement gap, the more risk you likely need to take to bridge it, and that's not ideal. Retirement gap. I work this out for my clients down to the dollar, almost. If you think where you're going to land and where you need to land is not going to meet the pace, if it's more than about 300,000, you are likely to need to use leverage, i.e. residential investment property, to help resolve that gap. People think they have an infinite time to execute on all the strategies available. They don't. The bank is less accommodating as we get older. And if you are going to go down the investment property track or need to go down the investment property track, you need to be able to hold that property at least for a property cycle. So, you know, if you're 45 and you can get into investment property, that is amazing. That gives you probably nearly 2 property cycles for that property to increase in value. What do we mean by leverage? This is a real generalized, very, very simple example. It's a numbers game. So if you've got 160,000 and you're earning 6%, that's 9,600 a year. If that 160,000 was used as a 20% deposit on an $800,000 residential property and it earns 6%, 48,000. So you can see you're getting the gain on a bigger asset by using leverage and using the bank's money. The deposit, often people don't have cash, but they have equity in their home, which we can access. You may already have invested in property. So we're really good at buying it, but we're not so good at reviewing it. We need to constantly review, make sure that that property is fit for the right next property cycle, and we need to factor in any maintenance that needs to be done and how you fund it. After analysis, you may decide to sell an older property and replace it with a newer property, a new build in a growth area. Or you might sell and invest elsewhere, or use the leverage to buy another. There's lots of options. Just remembering that property is less liquid than managed funds, and often a diversified portfolio will move away from property towards managed funds for ease as we age and get into retirement or through retirement. Other investments, managed funds, KiwiSaver, we want to constantly review. Liquidity is gold. We need to assess and review the performance and ensure you have diversification. Diversification helps offset any changes in the market, etc., if you spread across a whole lot of different assets or shares. If you have money in the bank, we need to understand, can it be used in a smart fashion? Should it be withdrawn and used for other investments or leave it as a buffer? An opportunity cost, there is an opportunity cost if you leave too much in the bank, because inflation is actually eroding the purchasing power. I like my retired clients to have a buffer in a savings account that they can access in a hurry, in an emergency, for medical or whatever things that crop up. But generally, money in the bank can be used smarter elsewhere. Right, once we've got all our investments, this is when we need to jump in and understand how do we, or when do we decumulate? Do we live off the returns? We actually need quite a lot of capital to do so, but that is a goal for some people. do we withdraw a set amount each year? So we have New Zealand superannuation coming in. We might withdraw 4,000 or 5,000 a month and live off that, or a percentage or phased approach. So there's a lot to this. You've worked hard all these years to accumulate your assets and investments. Now is the time to enjoy without guilt. And by having a plan, you can enjoy. It's such a shame when I see my clients too scared to go on that holiday, or saying, oh, I can't afford this or I can't afford that, when actually, properly invested and with a plan, these are the things that makes life good and what they've worked for. Okay, retirement, first 5 to 10 years, hopefully we're fit and well, we're travelling, we're doing all the fun things we want to do, quite a lot of socialising. Following 10 years tend to be less active, but there could be some rising health and fixed costs. In the final years, you may need some help around the house or changes in your accommodation. So we need to have our funds invested in buckets. The first 5 to 10 years, the money that we're going to require would typically be invested in low risk funds. The next bit can be invested in growth. And beyond that, definitely growth. So it's understanding when you replace your car, is there maintenance, any high spends that are coming up, and the timing of, so that you can allocate your money well. What about leaving a legacy? Did you know in the next 20 years, we will see the biggest transfer of wealth from the boomer generation to the next generation, more than $1 trillion. We've seen families torn apart because nobody's talked about intentions. Sometimes properties are sold in haste in the wrong time of the property market just because beneficiaries couldn't agree. And worse, windfalls can be squandered because beneficiaries have never learned how to manage money. Talk about it first. Giving with a warm hand rather than a cold one may be a goal, and you may be in a position to help your children while you're still alive. But make sure you have your retirement sorted first. Kind of embarrassing if you give them money and then have to ask for it back 10 or 15 years later. Did you know September is Will's month in New Zealand? This is a time where lawyers, everyone, try and encourage people to get their wills up to date. Your will is the key to ensuring that your loved ones are looked after and you can leave behind a legacy for future generations. Be really careful to document your wishes, and especially in the case of relationship changes, you've got to be very careful that you're clear about where the money is going, because you don't want to unintentionally disinherit your children. The most important part of making a will is choosing your executor. Their job is to execute your wishes. So someone you trust. Of course, a power of attorney is a really good idea. Your lawyer will help you with that. A trust may or may not be appropriate. Once again, talk to your lawyer. And a medical directive and living will, essential. As a coach, it enables me, our duty of care is to make sure our clients have got all these things in place and that you're protected. We've covered a lot. I guess the main points are you need to understand where you need to get to. Is there a gap? How can we bridge that? We don't want to take unnecessary risks. We need to be careful. I'm very conservative when it comes to all that, but my line of sight for my clients is till they're 90 or 100. If you have investments, property or other, make sure that they're working as hard as possible. Determine how you'll manage your finances once you retire. In my situation, my husband has just retired. It's quite confronting, I can tell you, when one income drops out and all of a sudden you have to change your mindset from accumulating to kind of holding the line. And then I guess when I retire, we'll be dipping into our investments. We need to protect your plan and your retirement with adequate insurance. A quote I love is, "What you do today can improve all your tomorrows." And another good one is, "Every day is a chance to change your life." So how does Enable Me help you? We assess your current financial situation to identify your risks, strengths and weaknesses. We help you articulate clear goals, and it might be getting on the property ladder, it could be paying down debt, it could be investing. We want to set the right course so that you can enjoy the ride. Understand your natural spending and money personalities. We want to find your annual surplus, put it to good use, craft a personalised strategy, ensure you can confidently pursue your financial dreams and navigate any storms. Resilience is important. And we provide guidance and motivation. We want to help you stay focused. It all seems very easy when life is going well, but life does give curveballs, and we're here to help you navigate that and make the best of whatever life gives you. Right, these are our lovely coaches. Many of us, all different walks of life, and they are here to help you get financially sorted and to walk beside you to help you stay on track and make real lasting change. We have a nice little offer here. So normally a consultation with Enable Me Strategic Coach is $400. If you book today, it is $149. If you book tomorrow, it's $249. Of course, you can book in advance. So if you'd like to see us, if you're worried about your retirement, please come in for that initial consultation. Now, I've got a few questions. We've got time. I've got a few minutes.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise, Dianne. We now have time for just a few questions from our audience. Thank you to everybody who sent through a question. So the first question I have here is, what type of investments are good long-term investments? What's the balance between putting more into KiwiSaver versus using that money to invest?
Thank you, Emma. I'll address the KiwiSaver one first because I get this a lot. The general advice around KiwiSaver is to contribute the minimum to get the maximum benefit. There's generally only 3 times where you can access your KiwiSaver. When you buy a home, if you're in hardship, really hard to get your money out, and when you're 65. So it's fairly inflexible. I would prefer you invest outside of KiwiSaver. So if, for example, of course, put your 3%. If your employer's putting in 3%, it's going to change next year. It's going to be 4%. So we want, that's a given. But don't put in 10%. That extra 7% should be invested somewhere else or used to pay down debt. Now, when we come to investments, long-term investments, the most typical ones we see our clients do managed funds and residential investment property. Of course, there's pros and cons. There's other investments as well, shares, commercial property, property funds, etc. But those are the 2 main ones we deal with. Managed funds are appealing because of their diversification. They're professionally managed. There's a variety of funds to choose from. Financial Markets Authority regulates these, and so that gives you transparency and accountability. They are highly liquid, and you can draw it, as I said before, a regular amount each month. Residential property is also popular. We kind of understand bricks and mortars, but it needs to be the right property, dependent on your situation. It needs to be in a growth area, preferably new or low maintenance, and you need to be able to hold it and have some buffers in place in case interest rates go up, etc. The mortgage needs to be structured correctly so that you're not paying too much interest. So those are the main two that we can help you with.
Thank you for answering that question, Dianne. And the next question is, and this will be our final question, should I still be considering term deposits in my financial strategy with the rates being so low?
It depends. If you are saving for a first home, a term deposit is a good way to put your savings and have it working for you. Just be careful on the maturity date because it is very hard to break term deposits if you see the perfect home. If you have a mortgage, the funds probably are better off offsetting the mortgage in some way on the assumption that you can re-access those funds at any time. And instead of earning 2.5% in term deposit, you're actually earning the interest rate of the mortgage, so 5%. If you are mortgage free or retired, term deposits probably do have a place as a bit of in between your current working accounts and your investments. So can be a good place to invest your funds.
Awesome. Thank you, Dianne. And that is all the questions we have time for today. Sorry that we can't answer everybody's questions, but we do encourage if you have any questions about our financial consultations to email us via info@enable.me or call us at the number on our website. Thank you for attending today. You will receive a follow-up email with the code if you didn't quite manage to scan it off the screen, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.